Hey everyone, welcome back to the Outpost. It was such a beautiful day today, I decided to go ahead and pack a small breakfast and throw it in my pack and hike up here on top of the mountain. I guess as you could tell, it's a pretty vigorous hike up here. A lot of that terrain is right at 45 degrees. I don't know if you could tell in the camera or not, but that big, thick, dense foliage that I kind of took the camera and panned just a while ago, that was mountain laurel, and it grows really thick. Sometimes it's impenetrable. I also brought a piece of maple with me. I thought while I cooked my breakfast and it was cooking, I'd see if I couldn't whittle me out a little bushcraft plate. I cut it before I came up here because it didn't really seem to have any cracks in it, so hopefully it won't crack. It was green when I cut it, but you know, if it does, then it's not too hard to make, so I can make another one. I guess also, as you can see, I pretty much got a 360-degree view up here on the top of this ridge. This is where my property actually ends, in a corner, and it's fun to hike up here, although it'll get your heart racing and your lungs pumping. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get set up here, and we'll see if we can't make us a little breakfast. Crispity bacon. Now you see why I need a Bushcraft plate. All of this is lightweight. One less thing to carry. But whittling's fun. So what are y'all doing in this lockdown? I say lockdown. I work every day because I'm in emergency services. But I know a lot of people are locked down. I had a lot of comments about people going stir crazy in the apartment. Can't get out. I'm getting tired of being cooped in. I mean, I don't know what you would do. I've lived in the city before, but I can't imagine doing it now. It's got to be tough. Well, I'm beginning to get a start here, but I think I'm going to have to start carrying a straight chisel with me because this curved one doesn't really do a good job long ways. I can actually dig out by curving it, but it doesn't want to work too well going in this direction. But this maple is really, really hard, so it would take some time to whittle it down anyway. But I do have a good start on it, and I think it's going to really look nice once I'm done. I want to talk a little bit about the Contractor's Corner, the Q&A. Been getting a lot of really good comments again. One of the people wrote, what's your estimated cost of building your house, including your land, and so far how much did you spend? You only have a basic structure and a roof. Well, first of all, the property has been in the family for years, so I didn't spend anything on it. Back in the 60s, my grandparents actually bought 200 acres for $39,000 if I remember correctly. And what they did is they had select cut timber, which is primarily the biggest timber, cut off of the property so that it could, create a better habitat for the smaller trees where they would grow a lot faster. There are more trees here now than when we moved here. A lot of it was pasture land, even up the side of the mountain. It had been cleared for cattle. It seems like every time you cut down a great big huge tree, a whole bunch of other trees come up. So this place is just full of trees now. So, and I'm very fortunate to be able to go out, select a tree that's good size. I would never cut down a small tree. Mill it up to build this cabin because I'm saving a lot of money. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. But that property had been in the family for years, so it didn't really cost me anything. The roof cost me $1,600 for the metal. I paid, I think it was right around $450 $150 for the OSB. You know, I've had odds and ends things like $200 for those aluminum plates. That was really expensive. Of course, I've got a huge sheet of aluminum left over because I only needed so many pieces and they only sold it in 4x8 sheets. So I figured I could use it later on down the road for something. The only other costs that I actually have are fuel. The tractor, like I had said at one time, I was going to purchase it anyway if I was going to be living out here, because you know, it's hard to live out somewhere like this and not have a tractor, because it comes in handy for, you know, making ditches and gardens and grading your driveway and pulling trees that fall down, and just, you know, bush hog, multiple uses for it. So that would have been something that I would have had anyway. The sawmill cost me $6,300, but I figured that that was an investment because it has already well paid for itself. And in the end, I can either sell it or I could turn around and use it to generate an income, you know. So I don't really figure that that's much of an expense on this cabin, although, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have it. So like I say, it cost me $6,300. There's a few other things that I bought, like a generator and the water pump and all, some miscellaneous tools, probably $2,000 maybe. I paid for those. Of course, they were brand new. You can find used stuff, but I bought it over a period of time. I had actually, before I did this, I built my daughter a deck. I'd started other projects, you know, where I was purchasing some of that stuff along the way, but I had to have it in order to do this, so I'm just going to consider that part of the expense. So, you know, I've probably up to this point spent maybe $5,000, just rough, on tools and the sawmill, and I mean on tools, the roof, you know, the plates for the bottom and stuff like that. It cost me so far $1,500 for rock, you know, to rock my driveway. It cost I think I spent $1,200 getting the driveway in, and then another $900 getting the very top of the mountain, kind of, or not the top of the mountain, I'm on the top now, but the side of the mountain down there kind of leveled off somewhat. So, you know, maybe no more than 10,000 so far at this point. All my siding, you know, I'm cutting it. All of my flooring material, I'm cutting it. I will have to buy plywood, but you know, I'll have to buy windows and doors, but I may be able to shop around and find some of those that are used and recycle those. So it's not going to cost me a great deal because I'm doing all the work myself and everything is coming off the property. So in order to answer that question, that's the best that I can so far, because I actually haven't sit down and figured it out. Another person told me to put down a blue tarp to catch my shavings there from the sawmill, and that's a good idea, but I still have to drag them off somewhere and dump them, and where I've been taking them is down in the hollow and putting them in a big pile, so that'd be quite a ways to drag them. But it's not really hard. You just pull that tractor up there, shove it in the bucket, and then take it off and dump it. So, but I do appreciate, you know, people thinking about different or better ways, you know, to make things more efficient. So thank you very much for that comment. One person also said not to put in a sliding glass door because a lot of times they tend to maybe have issues and get stuck and stuff, and I do agree because I've had them before. And I guess maybe when I said that, I don't know, I had in my mind a set of double doors, but a French style, with one of them, you know, stationary where the other one opens, but that way you've got double glass. But I like that. Anyway, like I said before, sometimes it's a slip of the tongue. I know what I mean, but I may say something else. But, you know, a really good suggestion. So, but you know, I'm not knocking sliding glass doors, but I have had them before and had some issues out of them. So that was a great comment. I had another question that somebody had commented about the sawmill, if they were looking at building a cabin as well, and about, questions about the sawmill. A lot of the videos that I have done didn't feature the sawmill, but you can see the sawmill in action and up close and me working on it and things like that. So the sawmill, like I said before, I paid $6,300 for it 2 years ago. It came from Canada. It's a Norwood LM29 Lumbermate. It will cut up to a 30-inch log. It is a 16-horse twin cylinder overhead valve. I think the water tank on the side of it is like 2.5 gallons. The blades are 85 inches around. I bought it in a kit, so it took us about a week to put it together. It wasn't that hard, just following the directions, and it helps you to understand the sawmill a whole lot better. Buying it that way, I think you can get it. It was another $1,800 if I remember correctly, $1,500 or $1,800, something like that, to get it put together and have it delivered. But I figured I'd save that almost $2,000 and do it myself and understand a little bit more about the sawmill and how it works. It's been great. Haven't had any issues out of it. Of course, recently you saw me working on the belts because they were getting worn down, because I've had it almost 2 years and I've sawn a lot of lumber. I would turn around and I would buy another Norwood. I like it. There is one smaller. There's also one larger. I did look at the Wood Miser. A friend of mine had one when I built the other cabin. That's what he used, and I had considered and almost bought a Wood Miser, but when I found the Norwood, all the reviews were great on it. It's a family company, and I decided to go with it because it was cheaper. But the Wood Miser is a great product. So, if I hadn't bought the Norwood, I would have probably bought a Wood Miser. Like I said, I would turn around and buy another Norwood because I've really been happy with this one. So I hope that maybe has answered some questions that you may have had. You can also get an axle with wheels and a tongue hitch for it and pull it behind your vehicle. It has levelers that you can purchase to go along the side, and you just set it up and level it, and then you're off and milling. But I didn't figure right now I needed those, so I just pretty much set mine on the ground, and that's how it's been. But later on, when I'm done using it, it would be really easy to just pick it up, put the axle underneath it, put the tongue on the front of it, and hook up to it and go if I don't sell it. So I hope that answers your question. Had another one right, telling me he heard me talking about the lap siding, to reconsider the lap siding, that the board and batten was actually better, because he's actually done both. And I've had several people comment that way, but I've also had several people comment and say don't do the board and batten, do the lap siding. But I haven't really quite made up my mind yet. I am partial to the lap siding, but I do tend to agree with one guy wrote me, said he had 30 or 40 years in the construction business, and it all boils down to what you really want in the end, because you're going to be the one living with it, you're going to be the one looking at it. So I have to agree with that right there. It's just like furniture that you may buy, carpet that you may put down, walls that you may paint. You're the one that's going to have to live with it, so do it how you want it. But I also know that the installation of whatever it is you're doing is a big part of that. I had been thinking about doing the board and batten. Of course, you have to run things horizontal when you do board and batten because you're nailing as you're coming down, whereas the lap siding, your 2x4s can be vertical because as you're going up, you're nailing up. So my walls probably will put them on 16-inch centers, and since that is lap siding is 1 inch thick, if I'm using screws on my lap siding, I really don't think that it's going to bow and buckle any. I could be wrong, but I really don't think so. I don't think that it would bow or buckle any more than the lap siding would, because even on the board and batten, I'm probably going to be nailing or screwing it, every 16 inches or so, just like I would the other. Now, the batten is supposed to hold down the board and it's supposed to take up room for any shrinkage that might happen. But also my lap siding, I'm lapping it 1.5 inches. So if there is any shrinkage, it's going to have to be a whole lot more than 1.5 inches before the boards actually separate from one to the next. So the reason that I decided to lap it 1.5 inches was to include room for shrinkage. So anyway, you know, don't know yet. I haven't really quite made up my mind. If I do board and batten, I'm going to have to do the upper portion underneath the gable end in a different way. If I do the lap siding, I was going to do the top in board and batten. We'll just have to see, you know. Again, it's going to be something I'm going to have to live with, and installing it, I'll have to do the best that I can, and just hope for the best in either way that I go. But I do appreciate, though, all these comments, because these are concerns that people have, and I know that maybe if somebody didn't install something the right way the first time, they've had issues with it, whether it was board and batten, whether it was lap siding, whether, you know, whatever it may have been. I do appreciate all these thoughts, so, and all the comments that I'm getting, because, you know, the comments that I'm getting, you know, they're coming straight from the heart, people that's got experience too. So I appreciate all of y'all out there getting back to me on these comments. I had also had another comment. This guy says they found an oil-based stain called Q8 that's used on a I used on a white cedar log cabin that I built. It was a great product which was recommended to me by a log cabin restorer out of North Carolina. Great UV protection, and the insects, including carpenter bees, hate it. As will all stains, eventually you will need to retreat, but this product lasted for me about 6 years before needing another coat. It's worth a look. You know, that's really good information right there. I actually ended up buying some oil that I told you cost $219 for 5 gallons. It's from Australia, and it's made by Cabot, and it's going on really well. It's actually going on a lot better than the linseed oil. It seems to be doing a really good job. So I'm thinking that 5 gallons may be enough to cover that whole cabin. Of course, it will need a second coat, but in the meantime, you know, that is protecting it somewhat from the elements, and I was concerned about going ahead and getting my first coat on there. As you can see, this is taking some time, but you know, that's part of whittling, and once I get that down far enough, and of course I'm probably not going to be able to finish this today, but once I get my straight chisel, I can actually go through there a whole lot faster, and then use this one right here for the corners. You hear that crow talking to me? There's another one. They're like, what are you doing up here this high? Anyway, but yeah, we'll have to finish this at another time. But it's a lot of fun to do little projects like this. I'll probably do just one more comment and then go ahead and start packing up and heading down. This is Easter weekend, and I just got a text that dinner was cooking, so I'm going to go ahead and pack up everything and get down there for some dinner in a little while. One guy was talking about using the 4-inch masonry block, which was actually 8 inches wide and 16 inches long by 4 inches thick. Said it would make my mason a whole lot happier, and I could still use and put my veneer, so to speak, or my rock wall onto the front of it, and it would still help to support the bottom beams. And I do agree, but you're looking at the mason. I have laid some block and rock in my time. I'm not an expert, but there's probably not too much I haven't done or tried to dabble in, because I've always been a do-it-yourself kind of person. But anyway, you know, on this build right here, it's primarily going to be me. and you know, whatever it looks like or ends up as is going to be something I'm going to have to live with. But anyway, it shouldn't look too bad when I'm done with it. But I do appreciate, like I said, all these comments, and you know, keep them coming. I'll probably be starting on that wall pretty soon, because I've been working on my siding, been working on my floor joists. I'm getting that stockpile built up, so it won't be long and I'll be starting on that, because I do want to have at least the block in place before I actually start my floor joist and putting my subfloor in and stuff like that, because I don't want to have to crawl in on the other side to work my joints down and stuff like that. So it needs to be done before I start putting the floor joists in. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get things packed up here and get down off this mountain, and you know, get ready for some Easter dinner. So let's go ahead and get all these tools and everything packed up. I will show you that this is how far I've got. I don't know, I'm probably down in there 1/4 of an inch, but like I said, my straight chisel, I'll be able to dig that out a whole lot quicker, and then I can take this curved one, dig the corners there, and then the spoon knife if I need to dig it on down any deeper than that. But yeah, maybe a cool little addition once I get this done to be able to take with me and have down there at my base camp and so forth. So anyway, but it's a lot of fun. Good for the soul. A lot of fun. Alright guys, I got all this gear packed up. I can hear people mowing way off in the distance. Of course, that's the thing about being up on top of the mountain like this. You can hear for a mile or two, but I can hear them way off in the distance mowing. Anyway, it's such a beautiful day. It was really cool this morning. It was down into the 30s, and I had someone remind me they call that dogwood winter. Whenever the dogwoods bloom, sometimes you'll have a cold snap. Right after they bloom, they call that dogwood winter. Anyway, it's a really beautiful day, and I'm going to head off here, like I said, because they're making dinner. I think they're making turkey. So, yeah, here's that mountain laurel that I was talking about. So, yeah, this is a pretty good trek up here. I'll tell you, if you got any kind of weight on you other than normal, you realize that once you start up in a place like this. I hope you all enjoy this little video, a little change in the contractor's corner, but still some questions and answers, and some information from good folks that are commenting back to questions and concerns that I may have had. I know this is a little different approach, but you know, it's good to change things up every once in a while. Anyway, hope everyone has a great Easter weekend. Probably by the time you see this, it will be past. But hope you all have a great Easter weekend. Take care. Enjoy time with family and friends. And we hope to see you back up at the Outpost in the future. Take care, everyone.